Joining me on the line now is Gaylene Barnes. She's an artist and filmmaker. She just wrapped up her first solo show with commercial art dealer Atelier Studio Gallery in Trafalgar Square in Nelson. The curator David James noted that it was one of the most successful shows he'd had to date, not only for the amount of purchases, but also for the level of engagement with the work, themes and ideas presented by Gaylene. Her show was entitled Origins, and she joins me on the line now. Good evening, Gaylene.
Good evening, Nick. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm just going to turn you up a little bit so that we can hear you. You must be very pleased with how the exhibition was received.
I'm ecstatic. It was great. It's my first solo show of paintings. And you never know when you hang them on the wall how it's going to be received. And even as you're creating the work, you know, you feel it's good, you feel it's going to resonate, but you're never sure.
Right, we're just having a look. We're just having a look now at the actual gallery itself. And whilst we can't necessarily talk about specific paintings as we see them, we're going to have a look at them as you and I converse. To start off with, I'd just like to have a little talk about your training. Where were you trained as an artist?
I went to art school in Dunedin when I left school. I failed painting. Terrible. So I was a good painter. I don't know why. But I then actually did computer art at art school, and so I was very interested in, I've got a bit of a left-hand brain, right-hand brain. I'm a bit of a geek, love science, love the maths, love the computer. So I carried on with my career in computers, but then recently I studied some egg tempera and sacred iconography with an Orthodox monk in England. And that pretty much, changed my whole opinion of image making in terms of painting. I began to see that there's a real power and there's a real meaning in painting, and it took me on this path.
There's a painting in front of me which we're going to bring up now. It's obviously got gold leaf around the outside, and it looks like a close-up of an iris on the inside. Do you know which painting I'm talking about? It's got like
the loneliness of Protanoia.
Yeah,
sort of blue.
It's like an explosion of blue in an iris, and then gold leaf on the outside.
Yeah,
tell us about this work.
That's a really good one to choose. It was pretty much one of the first images that really began this exhibition called Origins. So Origins is about looking at our past. You know, I think that we can't really assume that we know the future and how it's going to end or what's going to happen in the future when we have no idea still about what primordial beginnings. So I started to look into this, and this image here is a proton. And it's just, for me, it just felt, I started to look into protons, and I realized that when they don't have an electron, they're very lonely. they
So
does a
proton need a neutron to form a charge, or have I got that wrong?
It needs an electron in order to be the first atom, which is hydrogen.
Oh, right.
So without it, so I started to see it as a love story between proton and electron, you know. So I've got a lot of my work's about this hidden electron, which is hiding, and trying to find the proton, and when they combine, it's a first love, which is hydrogen. And anyway, so this one here is proton sort of searching, so it's sort of looking.
Did this one sell, Gaylene?
No, do you want it?
Well, no, I was going to ask you actually, because sometimes you will produce a piece of work and you know you've got to exhibit them, and they really do have to be for sale because there's a lot of time and money tied up with invested in these. But there must be some pieces that you're kind of glad that you can keep hold of.
Oh, thank you, Nick. I know. I've just hung up on I've got a studio gallery in Woolston, and I'm just setting up a little gallery space there. And I hung up probably a couple of my really favourite pieces that I had up for sale. They didn't sell. I put a very high price on them. And I'm so happy to have them back. They're my friends.
Now,
I've decided I'm not going to sell it.
We've just got a picture up of you with your favourite black magic camera on a tripod, and you appear to be in a swamp somewhere. But I'm going to ask my producer to bring up another piece of art now, because we're not really talking about your filmmaking this evening, but we can do that on another occasion. Now I'm just having a look at. Oh, here we go. It looks like we've got two works coming up now. Now it looks like Proton, but it's kind of leaked from the centre. There's a big sort of charcoal splurge going down there.
Yeah.
What's happening
so
here?
That's called CSY dyad, or CSY electrodensity dyad.
Yeah.
So CS in science stands for cross section, and Y is on the y-axis.
Yeah.
And for me, I was doing soul dissections. So I'm interested, obviously, in their material beginnings, but alongside that, very much at the beginnings of consciousness and the beginnings of our soul and spirit. So this one here is really much about the duality. You know, we have our carbon, our particle-based existence down below in the lower circle, and up above is the wave sort of part of our existence, so electro and density. And I sort of see that as this sort of, it's also, while it's part of, science, we're either wave, particle, it's also a soul thing. It's like this search to try and embody our immaterial reality with our material reality. And so the gold splashes that gold soul, cosmic kind of eternal being in every being that's living on this planet.
Now, to the left,
trying to integrate.
We've got two images up side by side, and to the left-hand side, for the viewers, there's appears to be maybe three monks contemplating or something, with a red dot in the middle.
Okay, yeah, that's the one that I've decided to keep. That's a very important image for me, the proto-trinity of the plasma. So, obviously, this is a very traditional sacred icon. This is, the sacred icon, except for the backgrounds, which I've changed. But you get these three angels, and this is really the Trinity. And in traditional Christian circles, this would be, Father, Holy Spirit, Jesus. And they're often represented as sort of angels or something like this. So, but for me, I've sort of started to see this Trinity appearing in origins. So, do you know that in a proton is made of 3 quarks?
Oh, really?
So, out of the Big Bang, Nick,
yes,
there was a quark plasma, and and basically just a whole bunch of quarks and gluon, which is like the glue. So I was thinking, well, you know what, this Trinity is in the plasma, and it's before the proton. So they're just forming, they're just in this plasma, they're coming together to create the first proton. And they're holding their blue ball of gluon, which is form, which is the memory of form, which is, you could say it's God. I've got another image, which is, I call it I am gluon, which is what I'm thinking, this bond that holds the quarks together, that forms this particle matter, is really interesting to me.
It's fascinating to hear the description of the iconography of these pieces. Now, we've got time to have a look at another image, Gaylene, and it came up. Oh goodness me, that was good. They're all great. Come on, now, okay, let's put that up, please, so I can see these in preview. Now I've got. Hey, 2 pieces have come up now. My mother used to do enamels when she was an art student, and I was a very young child. I remember she had a kiln, and to the right of me, it looks like an enamel. I know it isn't, but it's got a dark red large center, and then like a metallic ring, and it's on like a copper background. What's that piece?
Oh yeah, that's called Losing Photon. So at the exhibition, I sort of had these in triptychs. So that actually goes with the proton.
Hmm.
So I've got proton, and then I've got photon, and then I've got protein. That's pretty much the order of life. Start with your proton, and then a photon. A proton actually, oh my God, now we're getting into science. But when a proton has an electron around it and it's an atom, that electron jumps away, and then it releases a photon. And that's pretty much hits our Earth and creates life. Yeah, photons are fascinating, and in fact, I don't understand them well enough, and that's my next mission, is to understand a photon. So this, for me, is about this process of losing a photon. So I use a lot of gold, and in gold discs and gold rings, and the red is sort of a cinnabar, a very ancient pigment, and I use egg yolk to bind it. So I use all natural materials. And the brown behind it is my carbon, which I create from pig bones.
Absolutely stunning stuff. Now, from what you've said, are about half the works still in circulation for exhibition? They haven't been purchased?
Yeah. I sold about...
So we could get to see them in Christchurch, yeah.
30%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, as I say, I've got at St John's Church, Anglican Church. They've been very kind to me, and they've let me lease the top upper room, and it's a really awesome artist studio space. And I've just divided it up, so now I've got exhibition space there. So people are most welcome to come between 11 and 4 on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I'll be there working, but the gallery is open.
And what's the address there, Gaylene?
It's the corner of St John's Street and Ferry Road. Just opposite Littleton Records, opposite New World. Church on the corner.
Gaylene,
that's actually the community centre.
Yeah, Gaylene, thank you so much for joining us this evening and talking us through your artwork. I know it's something that a lot of artists are not comfortable doing, but you evidently are, and it was lovely to see some splendid examples of your work.
Thank you.
Okay, and thanks for staying up late.
You have a
for us
nice
as well.
evening.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
Cheers, Gaylene.
Bye.
Good night.